On a cold October morning in 2011, beneath the vast gray skies of Missoula, Montana, 24-year-old Hannah Kilburn walked into the Lolo National Forest and never came out. No phone, no footprints, no trace. To this day, no one knows where she went or why. Case file number 11-2049 MPD. Status: active missing. If you're new to this channel, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as we dive into details of the disappearance of Hannah Kilburn. Hannah Mae Kilburn wasn't the kind of person to vanish. Described by those closest to her as thoughtful, meticulous, and deeply connected to her surroundings, she had grown up in Missoula, a quiet city nestled between mountain ridges, where the Bitterroot River snakes its way through the valley and the wind whispers secrets through the trees. It was the kind of place where people notice when something fell off. And by the end of that first week in October, everything fell off. According to her mother, she was an artist, a hiker, and an old soul in a young woman's body. Hannah had returned to Missoula just 6 months prior, after completing a master's degree in environmental science from the University of Oregon. She'd moved back to take care of her ailing father and was staying at the family's cabin on the edge of town, close to the forest. It was supposed to be temporary, but something about the stillness of Montana, the pine-thick silence, the fog-laced dawns, had pulled her back in. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Hannah had grown more reclusive. Her closest friend, Layla Spencer, later told investigators that Hannah had seemed preoccupied, almost haunted. Though she didn't elaborate, she'd stopped coming into town as often. She missed 2 of her regular meetups with a local hiking group. And on September 30th, she skipped her scheduled call with her graduate advisor, Dr. Nell Ashwood, something Dr. Ashwood said she had never done in 2 years of working together. She was sharp, methodical. The professor recalled in an interview conducted for the case file, something had changed. Last confirmed sighting, October 2nd, 2011, Lolo National Forest entrance, 8:17 a.m. That morning, the temperature hovered just above freezing. A dense fog clung low to the forest floor, and frost shimmered on the underbrush. Surveillance footage from a wildlife observation post captured a brief clip of Hannah walking alone down a narrow trail near the forest's southern edge. She was wearing a gray windbreaker, dark jeans, and a green knit beanie. A canvas backpack was slung over her shoulder. She looked focused, steady, like someone on a mission. It was the last time anyone ever saw her. When she didn't return that evening, her mother, Elizabeth Kilburn, contacted the Missoula Police Department at 7:49 p.m. A deputy was dispatched within the hour, but the search didn't officially begin until dawn the next morning. By then, heavy rain had moved in overnight, and any trace of Hannah's path, footprints, scent, or possible items dropped, was likely washed away. The area where Hannah disappeared is known for its dense, often unforgiving terrain. Lolo National Forest spans over 2 million acres, a mix of rugged wilderness and isolated trails. Locals sometimes refer to it as the lungs of Montana, a place of deep beauty, but also deep silence. Search teams from Ravalli County, Missoula County, and even the Forest Service scoured a 10-mile radius from the trailhead. Drones were deployed. Dogs were brought in. Helicopters conducted infrared sweeps of the tree canopy. Nothing was found, not even a discarded water bottle. It was as if she had stepped between the trees and dissolved. File addendum. MPD internal memo. October 4th, 2011. Subject: personal items left behind. Hannah's vehicle, a white 1999 Subaru Outback, was found parked in the designated trailhead lot. Doors were locked. No signs of struggle. Inside were a phone powered off, her wallet containing $73 and 2 credit cards, and a notebook containing what appeared to be field sketches of local flora. The last entry is dated September 28 and reads, "There's something off about this ridge. I keep hearing that hum again. It could be geological, but it doesn't feel natural." While the note was vague, it sparked several theories among both investigators and the public. Some speculated she may have been experiencing a mental health crisis. Others wondered if she had uncovered something during her field research that led her into danger. Anomalies in her GPS data showed she'd visited the same trail 3 times in the 2 weeks leading up to her disappearance. But if she was afraid, she never told anyone. Not her mother, not her advisor, not Layla. By October 10th, the active search was scaled back. With no signs of foul play and no credible leads, the case shifted from rescue to recovery. The Kilburn family remained in Missoula, continuing their search efforts. They distributed flyers, offered a $15,000 reward, and launched a website called findhannah.org. Tips came in, sightings in Idaho, a report of a woman matching her description hitchhiking near Bozeman, but none were verified. Most were dead ends. Unconfirmed lead, case note 11-2049, MPD/lead 27, the cabin witness. On October 16th, 2 weeks after the disappearance, a man named Trevor Dunley came forward, a part-time caretaker for a cluster of private hunting cabins northwest of the Lolo Trailhead. Dunley reported seeing a woman who looked like Hannah standing on the edge of the tree line at dusk, 3 days after she was reported missing. She was about 50 yards from his cabin, partially obscured by the pines. "I waved," he told detectives. She didn't wave back, just turned around and went into the woods. Thought it was strange, but figured she was just camping or lost. His story was never corroborated. No other tracks were found near his cabin, but Dunley passed a polygraph test, and search teams were dispatched again. Still, nothing turned up. The Kilburn case gained traction online as amateur sleuths began dissecting every known detail. Her last sketches, particularly the mention of a mysterious hum, became a point of fascination. Some pointed to electromagnetic anomalies in the region. Others brought up older stories of people going missing in Lolo National Forest under strange circumstances. But none of it amounted to solid evidence. Detective Carla Monroe, who worked the case for over 4 years, later told a local journalist, "We chased every angle. We looked into transient camps, possible animal attacks, and environmental hazards. We considered abduction, misadventure, even voluntary disappearance. But at the end of the day, we were left with a ghost." And while theories persisted, none held weight in court. No suspects were ever named. Nobody was ever found. Psychological Profile Review, Dr. Kenneth Holm, behavioral analyst, 2012. Subject displayed mild isolationist tendencies, but no signs of suicidal ideation or psychotic behavior. Based on journal entries and digital communication logs, the subject was mentally competent, environmentally aware, and risk-averse. Disappearance is classified as highly anomalous. For her family, the worst part wasn't the absence, it was the silence that came with it. No final message, no sign of distress, just a vanishing. Elizabeth Kilburn still visits the trailhead every October. She leaves a single green beanie tied to the fence post where Hannah's car was found. She says it's her way of reminding the forest, "I haven't forgotten. I never will." In 2018, the case was briefly reopened after a hunter discovered a set of partial remains approximately 7 miles from the original search zone. But DNA testing confirmed the bones belonged to a man in his late 50s who had died of exposure the previous winter. Another dead end. As of today, over 13 years later, the case remains unsolved. Hannah Kilburn's file still sits in the cold case division of the Missoula Police Department, marked with a single red tab, "Missing, presumed deceased," but never officially closed. Sometimes the world doesn't offer answers. Sometimes people vanish, not into legend, not into myth, but into the quiet folds of reality, where even time refuses to look back. And in the case of Hannah Kilburn, what happened in that forest remains a mystery, a haunting, echoing silence beneath the pines. October 2nd, 2011, timeline of events. The morning of Hannah Kilburn's disappearance began like any other for the small community nestled along the southern edge of Missoula. The sky was overcast. Temperatures hovered near freezing, with low, creeping fog blanketing the ground. No major weather systems were predicted, though rain had been forecasted to move in that evening. Hannah, 24, was known for early starts, particularly when she planned her solo hikes into the Lolo National Forest. Her mother, Elizabeth Kilburn, later told detectives that her daughter had been unusually quiet that morning but did not indicate distress. 6:12 a.m., Hannah's laptop was logged off at the family cabin. The last online activity was a brief visit to a geological database related to subsurface frequencies and tectonic plate readings in the Pacific Northwest. 6:43 a.m., cell phone signal pinged a local tower as Hannah left her neighborhood. 7:08 a.m., a purchase was made at a gas station in Lolo. Surveillance shows Hannah paying for gas and a bottle of water. She smiles at the cashier, nods politely. Nothing appears unusual. 8:17 a.m., a stationary wildlife camera near the forest boundary captures Hannah walking northbound along Firebrand Trail. She is alone, carrying a worn canvas backpack. No other hikers appear in frame. This is the final confirmed sighting of Hannah Kilburn. The search begins. By 7:49 p.m. that evening, Elizabeth reported her daughter missing to the Missoula Police Department. Patrol Unit 42 responded to call and sent an officer to the Kilburn residence. At first, it was treated as a routine welfare check, a common occurrence for hikers who often misjudge daylight in the deep woods. But by midnight, concern had escalated. Elizabeth insisted Hannah would never spend the night without notifying her. She was cautious, methodical, always left notes or scheduled check-ins. Officer statement, PTL S. Rogers, MPD. Mother was visibly shaken, said she had a bad feeling, repeated several times. She wouldn't do this. She wouldn't just disappear. By 6:30 a.m. the next morning, search and rescue teams were mobilized. The Missoula County Sheriff's Office partnered with the U.S. Forest Service and deployed K-9 units, ATVs, and air surveillance. Within 48 hours, over 30 volunteers joined the effort. Discovery of the vehicle. 10:56 a.m., October 3rd, 2011. Hannah's white 1999 Subaru Outback was found parked in a gravel lot near the Firebrand Trailhead. The vehicle was locked. No signs of forced entry. Inside were several key personal items. Her cell phone powered off. Her leather wallet intact with credit cards and $73 cash. And a field notebook containing nature sketches and brief journal entries. The last dated note, written in her distinct cursive, read, "Still hearing that humming near the ridge. Same spot, 3 times now. Not wind, not animals. Something deeper, maybe seismic. The hum mentioned here would later spark public theories, ranging from underground tremors to less conventional speculation. But authorities at the time viewed it as a benign curiosity rather than a cause for concern. The driver's seat showed no unusual signs. Car mats were clean, indicating she hadn't walked through significant mud or snow. Nothing in the car pointed to a struggle or hasty departure. Detective Carla Monroe, MPD. She went into those woods on purpose. That's clear. What's not clear is why she never came out. Witness accounts and anomalies. Over the next several days, law enforcement interviewed hikers, locals, and nearby residents. Most didn't see anything unusual that Sunday morning, except for 2 potential witnesses whose statements remained disputed. Witness statement. Trevor Dunley, 58, a caretaker for a cluster of seasonal cabins north of Firebrand Trail. Dunley reported seeing a woman matching Hannah's description around dusk on October 5th, 3 days after her disappearance. She was just standing there at the tree lean, not moving. Looked like she was watching something. I waved. She turned and walked back into the woods. Dunley's cabin was outside the original search grid. His statement prompted a renewed search, but no physical evidence was found in the area. No tracks, no fibers, no secondary sightings. He passed a polygraph. Yet some investigators remained skeptical, especially given Dunley's prior conviction for trespassing on protected forest land in 2006. Case note 11-2049, MPD/lead 27. No supporting evidence found at site. Witness credibility, moderate. Secondary red herring, the jogger report. On October 4th, a woman jogging along an old logging road roughly 5 miles east of the trailhead reported hearing a woman's voice crying out faintly, like she was calling for help. She couldn't pinpoint the direction and didn't investigate further. Assuming it was a prank or an echo, authorities dispatched a search team immediately. Thermal drones in K, 9 units swept the area. Nothing was found, despite the woman's credibility as a local schoolteacher with no history of attention-seeking. No other corroborating sounds or signs were reported. SAR unit logbook entry, October 5th, 2011. Soundscape sweep negative. No scent trails established. Area topography complex. Possible echo chamber effect. The case team determined a low probability of a credible distress signal. Community response and media coverage. As news of Hannah's disappearance spread, the story gained traction. First in Montana, then across the Pacific Northwest. Posters appeared on storefronts, trailheads, and campus bulletin boards. Social media became a rallying point for locals organizing grassroots search efforts and public awareness campaigns. A reward of $15,000 was offered by the Kilburn family. A website, findhannah.org, went live on October 6th, featuring a timeline, images of Hannah, and an anonymous tip line. Online forums took up the case quickly, dissecting every known detail. Most theories remain grounded: animal attack, accidental injury, and voluntary disappearance. But others grew stranger. Some pointed to a pattern of disappearances in the Lolo region, mostly hikers, usually alone. A few even drew tenuous links to indigenous legends or supposed zones of silence where electronics malfunctioned. Detective Monroe dismissed these rumors publicly, but acknowledged the frustration felt by the community. We follow evidence. Right now, the evidence is thin, but we're not giving up. Family and emotional fallout. The emotional toll on the Kilburn family was visible from day one. Elizabeth, once composed and articulate, grew increasingly distraught during press briefings. Hannah's younger brother, Daniel, flew in from California and participated in multiple searches alongside trained rescue volunteers. Elizabeth Kilburn, interview October 7th. Hannah's not some careless kid. She's responsible. She's trained. If she's not back, something's wrong. Someone has to know something. Dr. Nell Ashwood, Hannah's academic advisor, flew in from Oregon to speak with detectives. She confirmed that Hannah had been working on a project involving subsoil sound mapping in seismically active regions. She had recently become fixated on certain unexplained readings in Lolo's terrain. She thought there was something unusual about the sound patterns near Firebrand Ridge. Said she couldn't shake the feeling something was off. Physical evidence, what was and wasn't found. Over 2 weeks of intensive searching yielded no direct evidence of foul play. No blood or clothing remnants. No discarded personal items along trails. No secondary footprints or DNA traces beyond Hannah's own. The phone showed no outgoing messages, calls, or unusual activity. GPS logs only recorded the drive to the trailhead. The forest, it seemed, had swallowed her whole. A forensic sweep of her laptop revealed nothing suspicious. No troubling messages. No signs of self-harm ideation. No communication indicating intent to vanish. Theories and internal police perspectives. With no body, no clear crime scene, and no suspects, theories were developed behind closed doors. 1. Accidental misadventure. The most accepted explanation. Hannah may have fallen, become disoriented, or succumbed to hypothermia. Yet the lack of remains or gear, especially with over 200 combined hours of aerial and ground search, makes this theory feel incomplete. 2. Voluntary disappearance. Investigators explored the idea of Hannah staged her vanishing, but her bank accounts, credit cards, and social security number have shown no activity since October 2nd. Friends and family vehemently denied she had any motive. 3. Criminal abduction. Statistically rare in isolated wilderness, but not impossible. No signs of struggle or witnesses to support this theory. No suspects emerged. 4. Environmental anomaly. Though not officially investigated by MPD. Fringe discussions, spurred by Hannah's notes on the hum, suggested some kind of underground acoustic phenomenon or magnetic field disruption may have led to disorientation or sensory confusion. This remains speculative at best. Then, in March 2012, 5 months after her disappearance, something unexpected arrived at the Kilburn family mailbox. A plain white envelope, no return address, postmarked from Missoula. Inside, was a single Polaroid photograph, blurry, dim, shot through what appeared to be a window screen. But at the center of the frame, a woman with long brown hair, partially obscured, standing in what looked like a wooded area. The woman was wearing a green beanie. Hannah's beanie. The FBI was contacted. The image was scanned, enhanced, and analyzed. Though inconclusive, the facial structure bore resemblance to Hannah. The location could not be verified. FBI case memo, March 17, 2012. Image under review. No metadata. Polaroid format complicates verification. Possibility of hoax not ruled out. Elizabeth swore the beanie was a one she had knitted for Hannah 2 winters earlier. For the first time in months, the case had a pulse. When a person vanishes without a trace, the human mind naturally reaches for answers, some logical, some emotional, some barely tethered to the realm of possibility. In the case of Hannah Kilburn, a 24-year-old graduate student who stepped into misty forests of Missoula, Montana, and never returned, the truth remains maddeningly out of reach. Nobody, no clear signs of struggle, just silence, speculation, and a single Polaroid that raised more questions than it answered. More than a decade later, 3 dominant theories have emerged. Each has its supporters, each has its blind spots, and each draws us deeper into the unsolved mystery of Hannah Kilburn. Theory 1, a tragic misadventure in the wilderness. This theory, most favored by law enforcement and search and rescue experts, begins with the assumption that Hannah underestimated the danger posed by the rugged, often unforgiving terrain of the Lolo National Forest. It's not uncommon for hikers, even experienced ones, to lose their bearings. In early October, Montana's weather can shift rapidly. A light drizzle can become a freezing downpour. Trail markers fade. GPS signals disappear. And the forest terrain, filled with ravines, deadfall, and slick shale outcrops, becomes a trap for the unprepared. SCR Captain Dave Ellison, Rhett. You could be 20 feet off the trail, and no one would ever find you. That forest doesn't give up its secrets easily. Supporters of this theory point to Hannah's last known movement, walking alone on Firebrand Trail around 8:17 a.m. They argue that she may have attempted to reach Firebrand Ridge, a notoriously steep incline where more than one hiker has taken a fatal fall. The journal note about the hum might not have indicated anything ominous, just a hiker's musings on natural sound phenomena, subterranean echoes, seismic microtremors, even wind tunnels. They also emphasize the items she left behind in the car, her phone, wallet, and keys. That behavior, to some, is telling. It suggests she didn't plan to be gone long. Perhaps she intended a short excursion and met with a tragic accident. But here's where this theory starts to unravel. Extensive searches, over 200 personnel, helicopters with fluorothermal imaging, dogs, and even cadaver-trained canines, yielded no trace. Not a scarf, not a footprint, not a shred of DNA. Nothing. Search log entry, week 3, cleared 11-mile radius grid. All primary and secondary water features scanned. No human remains or materials located. And then there's the Polaroid, sent anonymously, months later, possibly showing Hannah, or someone who looked exactly like her, still alive. Could she have survived an injury and been rescued or taken? Could have been her in that photo or a cruel hoax. Theory 2, a carefully orchestrated disappearance. To those who knew Hannah, this theory feels implausible, if not outright offensive. She was deeply connected to her family, passionate about her studies, not one to run from responsibility. And yet, some investigators and amateur sleuths believe the signs of a planned vanishing are there. First, consider the behavior in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. While not overtly erratic, friends later admitted she had become introspective, withdrawn, and obsessed with her graduate research. She talked about frequencies, natural ones, that she said didn't make sense. She hinted at things that made her uneasy in the woods. One friend, who wished to remain anonymous, recalled Hannah saying, "Sometimes I think we're not alone out there. And I don't mean animals." Was it paranoia or insight? Some theorists argue that Hannah, spooked by something she discovered or believed she discovered, might have staged her own disappearance, a symbolic exit, a retreat from society. Some suggest she wanted to vanish and live off the grid, as others have attempted before her. She left behind her wallet and phone, true, but her backpack was never found. Perhaps it held a prepaid phone, a disguise, a survival kit. There's precedent for cases where individuals have disappeared intentionally, only to resurface years later with new identities. Then, of course, there's a Polaroid. No metadata, no location, no note, but tangible, real, sent to the Kilburn family, without explanation. Could have been her way of letting her family know she was alive. Without compromising her location, this theory also finds fuel in the strange note in her journal. Still hearing that humming near the ridge. Same spot 3 times now. Not wind, not animals. Something deeper, maybe seismic. Some interpret this as a metaphor, a symbol of mental instability. Others see it as code, perhaps a warning. Critics of this theory argue that it hinges too much on speculation. Hannah had no history of mental illness, no financial troubles, no signs of secretive planning. Her email, search history, and online activity showed no indication of escape or fake identity research. All of it points back to a young woman grounded in the real world. Still, for those drawn to this idea, the unanswered question lingers. What did she discover or believe she discovered that made her vanish? Theory 3. The forest took her. This third theory walks the edge between folklore and fact. It is the least supported by evidence, and yet, in the absence of answers, it has gained traction, especially online. To believers, Hannah didn't vanish due to accident or free will. She was taken by something. Call it what you will, a force, a phenomenon, a presence. But the Lolo National Forest is no stranger to strange stories. For generations, indigenous Salish and Kootenai tribes have told of the Whispering Grounds, areas where travelers reported hearing unintelligible murmurs in the wind, vanishing for hours or days, or encountering shadow-like figures among the trees. These stories, often dismissed as cultural superstition, became woven into the fabric of the area's folklore. Modern reports continued. Hikers claimed to hear voices, sometimes their own names, sudden static on the radios, compass needles spinning in circles. Electronic devices are malfunctioning. Search and rescue teams have reported unexplained cold spots, vanishing footprints, and areas where GPS equipment fails without reason. Hannah's note about the hum has become central to this theory. Not wind, not animals, something deeper. To believers, it wasn't just a sound. It was a call, a lure, a threshold. Some suggest that there's a frequency, inaudible to most, that exists in certain areas of the forest. They theorize that Hannah, being a student of natural frequencies, tuned into something that the rest of us ignore. Something ancient, something dangerous. Then there's the matter of Trevor Dunley, the man who claimed to see Hannah 3 days after her disappearance, standing still in the woods, staring at something only she could see. Was it simply a misidentified hiker, or was Dunnell, who'd previously been cited for unauthorized excursions into protected forest, witness to something unexplainable? And what of the Polaroid? In low light, some claim the photo reveals more than just Hannah. Behind her, in the tree line, a faint shape, tall, angular, wrong. The FBI dismissed the photo as inconclusive, but conspiracy forums lit up with analysis, enhancing the contrast, mapping shadows, studying pixels. One chilling detail stands out, the beanie she's wearing, identical to the one Elizabeth Kilburn had knitted herself. She swore it had a small, nearly invisible stitch error in the left brim. Zoomed in, the photo appears to show the same flaw. How could a hoaxer replicate that? Skeptics argue this theory is rooted more in fear than fact, that in the absence of closure, people invent myths. They point out that the forest took her is just a poetic way of saying, we don't know. Still, the Lolo forest has taken others. In the past 40 years, at least 7 documented disappearances have occurred within a 20-mile radius of the Firebrand Trailhead. Some were eventually resolved. Others remain unsolved, their names forgotten, except by those who study the strange. Other theories and stray clues There are, of course, other possibilities, each with its own gaps and unanswered questions. Crime of opportunity. Perhaps she crossed paths with someone who wished her harm. But how? Where? And how did they leave no trace? Stalker theory. Some online theorists posit Hannah had a stalker, someone who knew her routines and followed her into the forest. No supporting evidence was ever found. Off the grid abduction ring. As sensational as it sounds, this theory arises from regional fears about isolated compounds deep in the woods. But again, no proof. Paranormal anomaly. Some dig into more fringe territory. Portals, time slips, interdimensional events. Law enforcement does not investigate such claims. But that hasn't stopped the speculation. The lingering absence. Today, Hannah Kilburn's name remains etched into the missing persons registry, an open case file collecting dust but not forgotten. Her family continues to hold out hope. Her brother, Daniel, returns to Montana every October to walk the trail alone, just in case she comes back the same way she left. Her mother, Elizabeth, has never changed her phone number, just in case she calls. The official word from the Missoula Police Department remains unchanged. All leads are actively pursued. No conclusive evidence of foul play. Status missing. But to those who followed the story, the silence speaks volumes. What do you think happened to Hannah Kilburn? Was it a tragic accident, a carefully planned disappearance, or something far more sinister? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're fascinated by true horrors and real missing persons cases, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the unexplained.